Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Thriving Talk. This is another Dadson edition in which me, Tim, gets the chance to ask my dad, Tinku Thompson, questions. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Today, as you know, that we are using another microphone.
Yep,
This
it's
is
a new
in
one.
preparation to the video episodes we will do. Let's see how the audio goes this time. So,
Yeah,
I'm also looking forward to your questions, but also looking forward to see how this all turns out and how it works.
hope the viewers can hear us. A quick reminder to all our listeners. Thriving Talk is available on all major platforms like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. So we're going to get into today's episode. So today's episode's title is called Relationships. And relationships, it can be, we're going to talk about mostly just relationships. But there's, in everyone's life, there's so many relationships. But we're going to just talk about the word relationships and what it really means. So, as my first question, I'm going to ask, what do you have to say about relationships?
Relationships. The first thing I want to say is we are created to be relational beings. All humans, we when we were created by God, we have this inbuilt need for companionship, relationship, fellowship, and when you look at what happened when you look at the account of creation, they said that God came to meet with the first man Adam and Eve, the woman Eve. And from that time onwards, we see entire the story of the Bible, how it unfolds is this Creator God's intent to have good relationship with humanity, human beings, right? And along with that, we are built with this ability to have, we can relate to another, relationship with one another, and this relationship runs into different dimensions. So, on the first onset, I would say we are relational beings. We have so many problems when relationship gets impacted. If you think a lot of pandemics, issues which are happening now, like loneliness, anxiety, and a lot of other issues related to that, if you see, it has to do with lack of relationships. And strained relationship also can create a lot of health issues too. So we have to remember relationships brings good and bad times. At times people are very happy with each other, one another, and at times they do not want anything to do with each other. There is a saying that sometimes we hurt the people that we are closest to, and I've also heard something like, the more you are closest, you get more hurt. It feels more. So that does tend to be the case as we forget to show love and respect to the people that are closest to us. So relationships are very important, and some of the areas where we need to focus is our relationship with our family, parents, siblings, friends, society. In some cases, people who belong to our community, like the church or wherever you're part of. So relationship is something which we are we are created to have. We are as relational beings, and hence it is very important.
So, what do you have to say about relationship with parents?
Relationship with parents. Before that, I want to emphasize a little bit about, maybe I want to expound a little bit more on the relationship importance, because I
Okay.
concluded by saying that, and then I will maybe get to the parents. So sometimes people think, I said we are created as relational beings. Sometimes people may think, why do we need to have good relationship, right? Because sometimes when we get hurt, and we may feel like nobody cares for us. So sometimes to avoid hurt, people may avoid relationships. So they do not want to spend time with parents, or there are other family members whom they do not want to be in touch with. But because relationship is a lot of hard work to maintain, to manage, it's very It's not easy because to nurture good relationship, you will have to invest time, sometimes your energy, money, a lot of things. So, in order to make a relationship grow, you have to invest. So, I will give you one example. Let's say we plant a small tree or something. No, that's not the end of everything. We have to water it. We have to invest into it. We have to spend time. So same way in relationship also we will have to invest. And but our human nature tells us that makes us to get angry fast. We get upset about situations. There are times where we really don't need to be upset, but still our fleshly nature will make us get upset about things. Sometimes we are quick to get offended, and when we are offended, we may treat people not that nicely. So that could fracture the relationship more, and before we realize, it can become an endless cycle of offense. People are getting offended. So there are times where it's so important for us to take a step back and think about why relationships are important. Okay.
Good.
So, coming back to the point of, um, sometimes when the relationship is stale, it's fractured, and then we need to really think why. And so sometimes we have to let our pride, ego, and offenses go, and we have to give grace to others, just like we expect grace from others. And so those things are all important, because sometimes even when somebody is harsh, you can be calm, and that could turn away the wrath, and that could basically deal with some anger issues. So that is why this whole relationship aspect is a very important thing. Now, so you specifically asked me about relationship with parents. Now, that is a question I should ask you actually.
Mm.
So, number one, we have to understand that God has gifted this whole experience of family, where children are born and the children have the opportunity to grow, with the parents. You know, so a lot of times parents enjoy that whole process. And when a child is a baby, they have to take extra care, holding them, taking care of them. And when they become a toddler, they start walking, talking, playing. So the parents have a big role to play. And in many cases, we are precious to the parents, and because they are there in each step. So they love us in special ways. So the thing is, parenting is hard. Parenting is not easy. Parenting is a hard process. It helps to help the children to grow. Parents have to invest a lot of their energy, strength. When a child is in the early years, a lot of times parents have to sacrifice the sleep, lot of things. Sometimes it can be hard to see this when parents are not there, and as a child, sometimes it's very difficult to comprehend all those things. But when you have disagreements with parents or any of those things, we need to think about those things, because law, they have your best interest in their mind. But then we also need to work towards making that relationship better. Sometimes some good gestures, doing some good things may help. Things may work differently in different cultures. In some culture, it's absolutely showing respect, and other things, which is more important than some other things. In some cultures, it's respect needs to be there, but also showering them with some gift or something. So there are different ways, but the children need to be very careful about it. And the love and the relationship dynamic should not go down. So parents will always, and I say in majority of the cases, will continue to love and see the children as children. But then as we grow up, we should also make sure that we continue to respect and value them as we do when we were completely dependent on parents. So those are some of the thoughts I want to talk about the relationship with parents.
So, we talked about parents. Now I want to ask you, what do you have to say about relationships with family members and like friends? Like,
Yeah, relationship with family members is very important. And some cases there are different dynamics which plays into that.
yeah,
I don't know whether I have told in any of these episodes, but in normal tendency, the group or tribe creation mentality is very natural to humans. What I mean by that is, if there are three people, there is always a potential of two becoming one side and one becoming on the other side.
yeah.
And if there are five, there is a high possibility of a group of three and then a group of two. So because that's a very natural tendency. But then what happens is in families, sometimes this can negatively impact. But I would say that we should have a base level of how to maintain a relationship within the family. But that can only happen if we are willing to sacrifice and show love and respect. In some companies, some sorry, not companies, families, there are a lot of challenges because people don't want to sacrifice. They are selfish. They fight over inheritance, property, things like that. Sometimes that can take a very bad turn. So it is very important that within the family, we don't allow the relationship to break at any cost. But in some cases, it's very challenging. I would admit that it's not easy because people have different priorities. But we have to remember that in families, if a relationship is broken, it's very hard to rebuild and regain the trust. That's why we need to bear with one another and forgive each other. And in some cases, others may not be willing to forgive you, whatever you may say. But in that case, you can keep up your calm and your peace. You need to be loving others. You cannot pay bad with good. Instead of, you need to make sure that you are always doing the good. So it is very important that we take care of this relationship with in the family also very seriously.
Okay. So for my next question, I want to ask you, what can we do to like not make problems in our relationships, and like what are some tips on that?
Yeah, first of all, there is an old saying which says a glass which is broken can be put back together, but it won't be the same.
Right.
So in any relationship, if it is broken, you may be able to fix it, but it will never be same because a lot of times it takes a lot of time for the trust to come back. Because if you have breached the trust, it's very difficult. So, from the place from where I come, there used to be a saying. I don't know whether this will make sense to many people, but if you are, if you are having like a couple of few glasses, if you're washing and you're keeping it, if you put one on inside the other, like if you're stacking it up, there is a high chance that when you try to take it out, it may break. So what they used to do is they used to put a paper in the middle. If you have seen some packaging, if you go and buy some set of glass or anything, you will see packaging in that's wrapped with the paper around.
Yeah.
So it is to prevent that break. So people, in olden days, people used to say that, in your relationship, always have that paper so that it is not broken. So what it means is you should not get too close that it when it breaks, it's a complete breakage. But you should have, depending on with whom you are having a relationship, right? And all relationships cannot be on the same dimension. Some relationships are more closer than the other. So that is okay, but so you have to define your boundaries, and you have to make sure that you are respecting those boundaries and keeping it at that level. Otherwise, it can be very challenging. So keeping the boundaries, don't go too far with anyone. At the same time, don't keep people far who needs to be closer. And forgiveness is so important, and lack of trust and suspicions are not going to help with the relationship. And then when there is an anxiety within the family or within anything, there is stress and all, it's easy, it will be very beneficial to back off and give time for those emotions to subside before reacting. Sometimes when you are in stress or in that situation, it's very easy for us to react, and then things may boil down. So we need to give ourselves time, you know otherwise it is going to be very difficult. So I want to remind one thing. Matthew chapter 7 verses 12 from the Bible, it says, therefore whatever you want others to do for you, do also the same for them, for this is the law and the prophets. What does it mean? It means that a lot of times we expect people to forgive us and do good things for us, but then we are not ready to do the same back to them.
Yeah, if we're not forgiving, then
Yeah, we are willing to we say, oh, we need grace, but we are not willing to give grace. And Philippians 2:3 says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourself. Right? Then we should not have arrogance. Proverbs
right.
11:2 says, when arrogance comes, disgrace follows, but with humility comes wisdom. So a lot of times it's so important. And we were talking about children earlier. Bible actually commands children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Do you remember the verse?
Yeah,
Where is it written?
Ephesians 6:1.
Yep, Ephesians 6:1 says. And Exodus 20 verses 12 says, honor your father and your mother, so that you may have a long life in the land that your Lord your God is giving you. So Bible teaches us about that. So it's important to maintain the relationship, but it is becoming very, very difficult. I will add that we are living in more of a post-modern individualistic society where everything is all about individualism, and everybody wants to be independent and freedom and don't want any dependence on others. So we have to be very careful that we are following things very carefully, right? In this time frame, in this generation, to make sure that we nurture good relationships.
So, do you want to add any final things, or?
In general, I would say that having good relationships in all aspect of your life is important, but it is not easy, because by nature we are fallen.
Right.
We all are sinful, but and there is always selfish ambition and selfishness which could come, and there are a lot of things which can hinder a relationship from prospering,
Right.
and misunderstandings can crop up fast. And then there is always, if somebody does anything, then even in my life I can tell you that so many incidents of good relationship getting strained because of unnecessary things.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's your mistake, but in a lot of cases, sometimes it may not be your mistake too. But best we can do is you can maintain peace with people, but also, you know, but without investing, it's not going to work out. So that is very important. So you
Right.
need to take time out. If you think of, so I want to ask you this, right? So if you have a friend and you never talk to that friend, do you think the relationship will be coming strong?
No.
No. So you may play with them, you may talk to them, you may hang out with them. That's time when you will feel like you learn, understand each other better, right? So say that applies to um, you know whatever I was talking here.
Right.
So it's very important.
Yeah.
So if we both actually as you are my son, if we go to a place, shop around, walk around, talk, we feel like we're closer, but let's say we don't talk to each other, then it's just challenging, it's difficult.
Yeah, so communication.
Communication is very important, yes.
Right.
And then, this is again, so I think in Thriving Talk we come up with, we have some big topics which could be spoken for hours, and we are trying to make it like 20 minutes or sorry, shorter ones. So I would say that this is another topic which could be explored in many dimensions, but I think we just are doing introductory, basic, elementary things. But yeah, it's so important to maintain it.
Right. So I want to thank you for sharing, and to all our listeners. My dad talked about how relationships work and how we need to keep in touch, but we also shouldn't be too attached or too close to the person when it so that if the relationship is broken, it's going to be harder on you. And
let me just interrupt you there. When I said not getting too closer, what I really meant is, you should not go so blind that it becomes very difficult to even recover from that break, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm not trying to say you stay away from people. Yeah.
Sorry. So I hope if I hope our viewers can use these things in their lives. And so thank you for sharing. To our listeners, thank you for listening. In the coming weeks, we will be coming back with more editions of Thriving Talk, and I'll be asking more questions. As we said in the beginning, this episode is available on many different platforms. Do not forget to follow or subscribe to the Thriving Talk podcast on your favorite platform as they get released. Also remember that my dad has a newsletter that goes out every other week. And in that newsletter, he shares a lot of good information. The link to the newsletter will be in the show notes. Feel free to subscribe to the newsletter.
Coming this Thursday.
This Thursday?
I moved it from Wednesday to Thursday.
Okay, so
yeah,
stay tuned for that. Feel free to subscribe to that. We'll be back, but until then, remember that we should try to keep good with all our relationships, and we will see you all next week.
Okay, thank you. God bless you all.